trying to override what I couldn't erase. But you always come back, you know it comes natural. Must be something I could do, now say your name. 'Cause I only miss you when you are gone. How to move on? I always tell myself it's time for someone new. When I see your face again, oh no, I see your face again. I saw a silhouette and wish that it was you. Hope that I see your face again, oh no, I see your face again. 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 I see your face again.
There's nothing. Please.
Miss Bennett, I wondered if this might be of use to you. It's Mr. Wordsworth's Guide to the Lake, where geography meets poetry. I am so sorry that anyone has ever made you feel like a disappointment.
Oh my god, cuties! Look at them!
And sort of more, having a variety of sounds, more like.
Yes, in London they sound like.
This is what it's called to match someone's freak. Yes, diva!
Last time we talked, you had nothing to say. You chose to walk, give what we had away. I hope you get what you're looking for. But babe, with me, you close the door on everything we could have been. Don't go thinking we could be friends. No, you can't bring us back from the dead. 'Cause when you know, you know. And when you don't, when it ends, it ends. When it ends, it ends. I really thought we might have been it, so my heart was shattered when it took the hit. Oh, I can't imagine doing all that again, even for one night to see where it went. Here's the thing, you made your bed, I just got yours, stay out of my head. No, you can't bring us back from the dead. 'Cause when you know, you know. And when you don't, when you
Welcome to the vlog. Probably like about 10 minutes in. Basically, I have been vlogging all weekend, but just getting clips of stuff that I've done. I haven't actually talked to y'all or like explained anything about what I've been doing. Let me explain. I think I started on Thursday. I went thrifting and the thrift gods blessed me. I had such a good haul. And when I got home, I did like a little bit of upcycling on a couple of the pieces as well as some mending that I needed to get done. On Friday, we drove up to Virginia for a friend's wedding. It was a beautiful wedding. We had a great time, came back, chilled that evening, watched Sahara, which is just like an absolute classic. My family loved that movie growing up, and so to me, it's a 5-star banger, no notes. On Saturday, I went to brunch with a friend, and then the restaurant was really close to Barnes & Noble, so of course I went and had a look around. I wandered around for probably over an hour. I didn't end up getting anything. I mean, of course, I saw a ton of stuff that looked really good, and I was like adding to my want to read list and looking up on Libby to see if the library had it. But the only thing I think I would have really been tempted to buy is if they had a copy of Wind and Truth, which is the fifth book in the Stormlight Archives. It's the next book I need to read in the series, so I'm kind of keeping an eye out for it at bookstores. But it is the most recent release in this series, so I'm finding that stores either only have it in hardback or they don't have it at all, I guess because other people have already bought it. But it was fun to just wander around the bookstore. It was really, really hot, so I was like, let me enjoy the AC and look at books. That afternoon and evening, I binge watched The Other Bennett Sister, which is a period drama series that came out earlier this year that I have been like dying to watch. I had held off because I thought, oh, I need to read the book first. And I actually did start reading the book. I didn't get too far into it, but I just was bored. And I was like, honestly, I just want to watch the show. So I bailed on the book. This is kind of Pride and Prejudice fan fiction, basically. It's telling the story of Mary, who is the middle sister of the Bennett sisters, and she's the one that's like overlooked, not as pretty as her sisters, not as interesting, the bookish one, the quiet one. And in this one, she is the main character and she really gets her chance to shine. And it's just a really sweet period drama about a woman kind of stepping into her own, as well as falling in love, meeting a wonderful man, several wonderful men, in fact. It was a lot of fun. I really, really recommend if you like period dramas or Jane Austen. On Sunday, which was yesterday, after church, we drove out to go to the North Wilkesboro Speedway to watch a NASCAR race. If you're like, wow, interesting, doesn't really seem like your thing, you would be correct. Somebody gave us some free tickets. It seemed like a unique experience. I have never been to a NASCAR race before, to be quite honest. I probably will never go again, but it was something that I'm glad I experienced. The people watching was incredible, and the track was really beautiful. Actually, Wilkesboro is in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and so you could see the mountains in the distance. There was a gorgeous sunset. I spent most of the race like watching the sunset instead of the cars. My husband was laughing at me every time he looked over. I would be like looking up and beaming at the sky. Meanwhile, the cars are like Anyway, it was a time. I also wanted to give you a quick reading update. I have only finished one book since last week's video, so I did a 7 books in 7 days challenge vlog. I was successful, but I think I put myself into a little bit of a reading slump. At the end of that video, I said, oh, you know, I really want to slow down now and take my time, and I have really done that. I have finished one book. I read Pharaoh's Daughter by Georgette Heyer. This was my bedtime book, the book I just, read a little bit on my Kindle before bed each night. Georgette Heyer wrote in the early and mid 1900s, but she wrote historical fiction, so she wrote like Regency romances, and they're just a lot of fun. She has actually really good banter and character relationships. So Pharaoh's Daughter specifically was like a very strong enemies to lovers, like barely lovers really, just mostly enemies. Like I think it was 94% of the way through this book, and they were still hurling insults at each other, which honestly, that's the type of slow burn that I'm really looking for. So that was a lot of fun. Probably not my favorite Georgette Heyer book. I think that's probably still The Grand Sophie, but it was very entertaining and a fun read. My kind of more serious reads that I am undertaking at the moment are East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I have finished part 1. What page is that? Okay, so I'm like 130 pages into a 600-page book. So not very far. I'm moving very, very slowly through this, to be honest. I really want to finish this by the end of July, so I probably will need to pick up the pace. This is definitely not a book to rush through. So like I said, I finished part 1, which is basically telling kind of the backstory back several generations of these two families that are going to be at the center of this story. So far, everything we've gotten has been retrospect. So it's definitely not plot driven yet. I have a feeling it probably won't be based on the writing style so far, but everything that's happened, I think maybe in part 1 is catching us up to where we're going to be in the present day with our narrator. It is a first-person narrator. We know what family they're in, but we don't even know their name yet because we're really not talking about them yet. We're talking about their ancestors and family. The writing in this book is kind of beyond compare. Like, it's really, really incredible. The thing that I've loved the most about his writing so far is how he writes about nature. So yes, specifically the natural world, the outdoors. There's some beautiful descriptions of especially this valley in California and that landscape, but he also writes so well about human nature, not just his insights, which are pretty incredible on their own, but how he then puts those insights into words about human emotions and thoughts and relationships. It's pretty incredible. There have been so many passages that I've been like highlighting like crazy and rereading and just absolutely loving. So this is a really, really good book. I just am not like sucked into any sort of plot or story, so I'm moving pretty slowly. I also started reading Read Until You Understand by Farah Jasmine Griffin, subtitled The Profound Wisdom of Black Life and Literature. I have read Farah Jasmine Griffin before. I actually read her in a class. I took a Black feminist class in my doctorate degree, and I really liked her writing. I read a book she wrote about Billie Holiday. So when I saw that she had a book about Black literature, I really was interested in it, and I'm loving it so far. I think 3 chapters in. I think there's 10 total. So there's definitely an element of memoir. She talks a lot about, especially her dad, who was the one who taught her to love literature and taught her about the world and introduced her to a lot of great Black thinkers and writers and scholars and figures and leaders. And then she's also talking about specific works of literature. So far, she's touched Toni Morrison and Phyllis Wheatley, Frederick Douglass. She talked about Barack Obama's memoir, Dreams of My Father, his first one. And then also just general thoughts about current events and literature. She has great literary analysis. So I love the combination of all of those things together, and she's just a really, really good writer. So I'm really enjoying this so far. I definitely recommend. I think that's all of the updates and catching up that I need for now, but I will update y'all some point in the next couple of days. I should be at home cleaning my bathrooms, but I'm at the library instead. I had a few movies I wanted to pick up. I'll explain when I'm at home, but I have a grievance to air, and that is that parking at the library should be free. There's one little covered deck area, but it's literally, I don't know, a dozen spaces, and everything else is street parking, and the street parking in front of the public library is paid, which is insane. That's insane to me. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna stop complaining now and go in the library. Okay, well, sorry, excuse the hair. It's like very windy today. I decided to roll the dice and just not pay because I was like, I'll be in and out. So the good news is that I didn't get a ticket. The sad news is that I drove all the way into the downtown library because it said they were the only ones that had a copy of this movie that I wanted to watch tonight, and they do not have it. And it is not on streaming, so I guess I will be buying a rental copy or something. I don't know, that makes me sad. We'll talk about it when we get home because it is related to another book that I started reading. Yes, you're hearing that right, I started another book. We'll talk about it later. I'm home from my failure of a library trip. It wasn't a complete failure. I did end up picking up His Girl Friday, which is like an old Cary Grant screwball comedy. I've been watching a lot of his movies this year. Actually, me and the librarian had a nice long chat about Cary Grant. He saw me checking this out. He was like, oh my gosh, there's this Cary Grant movie you have to watch. And I was like, no way, this is my favorite. It was a nice human interaction. I did not go what I went for, which was a room with a view. Now, I specifically wanted to watch this movie because I did start reading this book. Let me show you my stack. In addition to Read Until You Understand and East of Eden, which I have continued to read, I'll give you an update in a second on both of those, I needed to start a book before bed. And despite the fact that this is a book on my physical TBR, it felt like it had the good vibes for like a bedtime book to read on my Kindle. And I really wanted to get to this book this year and specifically during the summer. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit it in if I kind of wait until I'm done with East of Eden. Let me just read it a little bit at a time on my Kindle before bed. And of course, I like quickly became obsessed with it. I've read it the last 2 nights and I've read like 30% of the book each time. I think I'm almost 70% of the way done, actually. My plan was to just go ahead and finish it this afternoon because I'm really enjoying it, and then I can watch the movie tonight to just complete the experience. The movie is from the 80s, I think. Helena Bonham Carter is in it, Maggie Smith, I think Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like a who's who of major British actors. I think it should be a pretty good adaptation. This book, if you're not familiar with it, it is from 1908 and it is set in that time. So it's set in the early 20th century and it's about this young English woman named Lucy. She's naive, she's well-bred, she's a little boring maybe, like she just doesn't have a ton of personality, but she also has kind of been stifled by her mother and her upbringing and just genteel English society. And she goes on a trip to Florence with her older cousin as a chaperone. And she's just exposed to life there. Different types of people, different ways of living. She meets this father and son who are socialists. And there is a little bit of maybe a romantic will they won't they with the son. She returns home from Italy and actually becomes engaged to just the worst man you've ever seen in your life. His name is Cecil, and I want to hit Cecil with my car. He drives me absolutely insane. He's so stuck up and hypocritical and just the worst. And the whole point of the book, on the surface, I guess, is that Lucy kind of has to choose between these two men. But really, it's more about her choosing who she wants to be. What side of her personality is she going to kind of lean into? What sort of person does she want to become? Typified in these two different types of men and in the different milieu of Britain versus Italy and society versus freedom and conformity versus unique expression, all those sorts of things. I have a soft spot for early 20th century British satire. It just is absolutely one of my favorite things. I love Nancy Mitford's books. I was hoping, based on what I knew about this, that this was gonna give me a little bit of those vibes. It's not quite as funny as Nancy Mitford's books. I don't really think anything could be, but it is funny in like a quippy British humor sort of way. It's giving 5-star prediction. We'll see. I'm curious to see how the story goes from here on out. Quick update on Read Until You Understand. I am halfway through, so I've read 5 out of the 10 essays. They continue to be fantastic, continuing to enjoy this book. And then in East of Eden, I would say I've made it maybe about a third of the way through. So I ended up doing the math. I said, how many pages do I have left? And then how many days do I have left to finish this in time? I want to be able to include this in my wrap up next week, but I think it's like 40 to 45 pages a day. So I put a little tab so that I know what I need to read to each day to stay on track. Once part 2 started, there was some really, really interesting information about culture around the turn of the 20th century. Again, like early 1900s. This has been a thing over maybe the last year or so, but that period of history, a time period that was so transformative, especially just because of technology and religion and politics, all of it. It's just really been fascinating me. So I'm really, really enjoying the insights into that we get at the beginning of part 2. And we're also starting to see a little bit of crossover between these two families. We're just now in part 2 getting the Trasks, which is the second family, settling in the valley, meeting the Hamiltons. So we've had a little bit of crossover between the two, but not a ton. So I'm interested to follow that forward and see how that goes and see how these families' lives are gonna intertwine and connect. Okay, so I'm maybe not 75% of the way through, maybe more like 2/3. This is where I am in a room with a view. Every chapter has titles. I just finished one called 12th Chapter. He just couldn't think of a better name for that one. But up next I have How Miss Bartlett's Boiler Was So Tiresome. And then chapter 14, How Lucy Faced the External Situation Bravely. I love even these chapter titles. Oh, let me show you my favorite. Okay, yeah. The Reverend Arthur Beebe, the Reverend Cuthbert Eager, Mr. Emerson, Mr. George Emerson, Miss Eleanor Lavish, Miss Charlotte Bartlett, and Miss Lucy Honeychurch drive out in carriages to see a view. Italians drive them. So that's chapter 6. And then chapter 7, they return. Like, it's just clever. It's evocative, it's funny. I just love it. So I'm gonna go enjoy myself finishing this book. I'll come back and give you a final review once I've finished it. A truly absurd amount of reading material, but what are you gonna do? I finished A Room with a View. It was as good as I wanted it to be. I really, really loved this book. If I had to give any sort of complaint, one of the things that I like the most about this type of book is also one of the things I like the least, and that is the restraint. I like in a lot of ways how much isn't told and we just have to discern for ourselves. But when it comes to romance, especially, and how it's depicted in a book like this, I'm the type of person that I want to see every conversation. I want to see every ounce of development and yearning and declaration and pining, all of it. I want to see it on the page, and you don't get that in this book or this type of book. It's very restrained when it comes to how it depicts the romance. You sense what it's building to. I wanted maybe a little bit more of a
an oomph in the payoff, but there were some really, really strong scenes. Overall, I'm happy with how the plot went. I don't know for sure if it's a full 5-star. It may be like a 4.5, just because again, I didn't quite get the oomph that I wanted at the end. But I have had, I think, 1 5-star read for the last 3 or 4 months. I've been reading really good books. I've just not given anything really a 5. It's all been like 4.5s or something. So I'm wondering if I'm the problem, if I'm just being too picky. So I'm kind of tempted for that reason to just give it a 5 because I'm annoyed with myself. Anyway, I'm really glad that I read this. This is a great summer book. It is set, at least partially during the summer. You've got Florence, and then you've got the English countryside in the summer. I actually think this is a really approachable classic. I would definitely recommend this to anybody, like people who read a lot of classics or literary works, or if you're just hoping to get into classic and read something a little easier. This is nice and short. I feel like the writing, while definitely elevated and literary, is not difficult to understand. Again, it's clever. It's got enough plot motion. There is an element of just people having conversations at each other's houses, but that's just kind of classic literature. You're gonna get a lot of just conversations. But there are certain moments of plot tension in this one that you're trying to figure out, especially with regards to Lucy, like what's she gonna decide? How is this gonna come about? So I really, really recommend this one. I'm excited to watch the movie tonight. I think that this is gonna lend itself really well to an adaptation. You have the settings, Italy, the English countryside, which are going to be gorgeous, but also these characters, they have a lot of personality. They're almost like caricatures in the way that they're displayed, so I feel like it's going to translate really well to characters on the screen. I'm excited to see what the actors do with it. I already have really strong feelings about how I feel about certain characters in here based on how Forster depicted them. So I'm interested to see if they like lean into that with the adaptation and if I hate and or love certain characters even more than I already do. So that's gonna do it for this vlog. We finished A Room with a View. I am slowly making my way through East of Eden and Read Until You Understand, hoping to finish those by the time I post my wrap up next week. So make sure you come back next Friday for that. I'm doing a whole summer reading wrap up, talk about everything that I've read over the last 3 months, so you don't want to miss that one. Thank you all so much for hanging out today, and until next time, happy reading!
Ti sposi. She has accepted me.
I am so glad.
Yeah?
No, really, honestly, it's the silliest thing.
With crimson stains of poppies. All unobserved he came to her.